You ever make a decision that felt small at the time, but ended up costing you everything? Dorilla the Gorilla didn't think he was making a mistake. He thought he was being smart. At 64 years old, Dorilla had done everything right. Worked 40 years, saved his bananas, avoided stupid risks. No flashy investments, no gambling, just discipline. He had exactly $820,000 worth of bananas saved for retirement. Not rich, but safe. Enough to live a simple, peaceful life. No stress, no worries. Until one afternoon, a voice changed everything.
Dorilla, you're sitting on a gold mine and doing nothing with it.
That voice? Saru the monkey. Loud, energetic, always in the know. Saru wasn't retired. He wasn't even financially stable. But somehow, he always had the next big opportunity. And this time, he sounded different. "This isn't like the others," Saru said, leaning in.
This one is guaranteed. My guy Tanuki, the fox. He's a stock expert, Wall Street jungle level. He doesn't miss.
Dorilla hesitated. He had heard this before. But then Saru said something that hit deeper than logic.
You worked your whole life just to play it safe. What if your money could double? Don't you want more?
That word, more. More comfort, more freedom, more security for the future. Dorilla looked at his savings, and for the first time in his life, it didn't feel like enough. And that's where the mistake began. A few days later, Dorilla found himself sitting across from Tanuki the fox. Sharp suit, calm voice, confident smile. The kind of confidence that makes you feel safe. "Dorilla," Tanuki said smoothly.
Bro, I specialize in opportunities most people never see.
He slid a paper across the table. A stock, unknown, small, but according to Tanuki,
It's about to explode.
Dorilla squinted at the numbers.
I don't really understand this company.
Tanuki smiled.
That's exactly why you're early.
Saru jumped in, laughing.
I already put in $50,000. You think I'd risk that if it wasn't real?
Now Dorilla felt something stronger than curiosity. Pressure. Not from them, but from himself.
What if they're right? What if I miss this? What if this is my last chance to really grow my money?
Tanuki leaned in slightly.
Dorilla, at your age, time is your biggest enemy. Safe investments won't get you where you want to go anymore.
Nani?
That sentence stuck because it sounded logical and dangerous. Dorilla wasn't greedy. He was scared. Scared that what he had might not be enough. So he made a decision that felt responsible.
I'll just start small.
Dorilla said. He invested 200,000 bananas. Not everything, just enough to test it. And for a moment, it worked. 1 week later, Dorilla checked his account.
Nanu?
Up 12%. He blinked.
Wait, what?
Another week, up 22%. His heart started beating faster. For the first time in years, Dorilla felt something he hadn't felt since he was young. Excitement. Saru called him, shouting through the phone.
I told you, this is just the beginning. Tanuki said it could 3x.
3x? Dorilla did the math in his head.
$200,000 could become $600,000. That's not just growth. That's a completely different retirement. Better home, more travel, no more worrying about running out. And then, the thought that changes everything. If I had put in more.
That's when logic quietly left the room. Dorilla sat there, staring at his total savings. 820,000 bananas. 40 years of work. And suddenly, it felt like an opportunity, not security. He called Tanuki.
Throw at me, Dorilla. Is it too late to invest more?
Tanuki didn't hesitate. The smart money is just getting in now. That was all Dorilla needed to hear. By the end of that day, Dorilla had moved everything into the stock. Every banana, every year of effort, all in. And for a brief moment, he felt like a genius. At first, nothing seemed wrong. The stock was still up. Dorilla was still winning. But then one morning, he checked his account. Down 8%. He frowned.
Normal.
He told himself.
Markets go up and down.
Saru texted immediately.
Relax, just a pullback. Tanuki said it's healthy.
So Dorilla waited. The next day, down 15%. Now his chest felt tight. He refreshed the screen again and again and again, each time hoping the number would change. It didn't. He called Saru.
Yo, bro, it's Dorilla. You sure this is okay?
Saru laughed.
You're thinking too much. This is how weak people lose. Strong investors hold.
That word, hold. It sounded disciplined. It sounded smart. But in reality, Dorilla wasn't holding because of strategy. He was holding because of fear. Fear of being wrong. Fear of losing. Fear of admitting he made a mistake. Then came the third day, down 28%. Now it wasn't just numbers. It was years of his life disappearing. Dorilla couldn't sleep. He sat in the dark, staring at his account. Down 41%. His hands were shaking. He called Tanuki. No answer. Again. No answer. Again. Straight to voicemail. A cold feeling hit his stomach. He rushed to message Saru.
Saru, what's happening?
No reply. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. An hour. Nothing. Then finally, a message came through. From Saru.
Hey, I think something's wrong. Tanuki's not responding to me either.
That's when Dorilla knew. This wasn't a dip. This wasn't normal. This was something else. The next morning, the stock opened down 65%. Trading halted. News started spreading. Company under investigation. Financials unclear. Possible fraud. Dorilla felt like the ground disappeared under him. He tried to sell, but there were no buyers. No exit. No safety. Just a number on the screen, dropping closer to zero. A few weeks later, Dorilla sat alone on a wooden bench, silent, still, not angry, not crying, just empty. His $820,000 bananas reduced to almost nothing. 40 years gone. And the worst part, it wasn't bad luck. It wasn't the market. It was one decision, trusting someone else without understanding what he was doing. Saru eventually showed up, quiet, no energy this time.
I didn't know, Dorilla.
Dorilla didn't even look at him, because deep down, he knew the truth. Saru didn't force him. Tanuki didn't press a button. He chose it. That's what made it hurt more. Not the loss, but the realization.
It didn't have to happen.
Days later, with almost nothing left, Dorilla slowly walked toward a small pond where an old turtle sat calmly, watching the water. Kame, the turtle, known for one thing, never rushing, never chasing, never losing. Dorilla sat down beside him. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Dorilla finally said,
I did everything right and still lost everything.
Kame didn't look surprised. He simply nodded and said quietly,
No, you didn't.
Dorilla looked at Kame, confused.
What do you mean? I worked, I saved, I avoided risk my whole life.
Kame finally turned his head.
You avoided thinking about risk until it was too late.
Dorilla frowned.
I was trying to be careful.
Kame shook his head slowly.
No, you were trying to be comfortable.
That landed harder than any loss. Kame continued.
You spent 40 years being disciplined. and then made one emotional decision based on someone else's confidence.
Dorilla looked down. Kamei pointed gently at the water.
Tell me, did you understand the business you invested in?
No.
Did you know how it made money?
No.
Did you know what could go wrong? Dorilla hesitated.
No. Kamei nodded.
Then you weren't investing. You were hoping.
Silence.
The kind that forces you to face yourself.
Kamei leaned back slightly.
Hope is not a retirement strategy, Dorilla.
Kamei picked up a small stone.
And dropped it into the pond. Ripple after ripple after ripple. Most people think losing money happens in one moment,
Kamei said.
but it doesn't. It starts much earlier.
Dorilla listened carefully now.
When you feel pressure to act fast, when you feel fear of missing out, when you trust someone else more than your own understanding,
Kamei looked directly at him.
that's when the loss begins.
Dorilla swallowed.
So what should I have done?
Kamei answered simply.
Nothing until you understood.
Good investing feels boring, Dorilla.
No excitement, no urgency, no pressure. If someone has to rush you, it's not an opportunity. It's a trap.
Dorilla let out a slow breath. For the first time, things made sense. Not in a comforting way, but in a clear way.
Is it over for me?
Dorilla asked quietly. Kamei didn't hesitate.
No,
Dorilla looked up, surprised.
but your path has changed.
Kamei continued.
You may not get back everything you lost, but you can protect what you rebuild.
Dorilla nodded slowly. This time, no shortcuts, no hot tips, no chasing. Kamei gave him 3 simple rules.
First, only invest in what you understand. Second, never risk money you can't afford to lose. Third, if someone guarantees returns, walk away.
Dorilla almost smiled. Dry, but real.
Even if it's Saru?
Kamei gave a small grin.
Especially if it's Saru.
For the first time since the collapse, Dorilla felt something different. Not excitement, not fear, just clarity. And that was enough to start again. Dorilla's life didn't magically recover. No sudden comeback, no overnight success. But slowly, carefully, he began rebuilding. Smaller investments, safer decisions, more understanding. And most importantly, no more blind trust. Because Dorilla's finally realized something most people learn too late. It's not the market that destroys you. It's the decision you didn't fully understand. So before you follow someone's hot stock, before you chase that once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, ask yourself one simple question. Do I actually understand this, or am I just hoping it works? Because Dorilla asked that question too late. The real question is, will you?